Hey everyone, welcome to Parsnips and Iron. This video we're going to have a bit of a chat and we are going to make some bread. Now the main purpose of our channel here is our journey towards a self-sufficient and sustainable lifestyle. And that could be in big changes. Our main goal is to move out into a field and cut off from a lot of the rat race. And it can start with really small changes, just making things instead of buying things. We're going to start with one of the areas a lot of people have started with over the lockdown, and that's making some bread. And while we're doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit about what this channel's about, why we're doing it, and what you can expect. Now, this is a very, very simple bread recipe. My family have always said you should never trust a skinny cook. So trust me, this is a simple, reliable, decent white bread. I'll just go through the ingredients I've got. I have 500 grams of strong white flour. Sorry, I don't know what any of these are in freedom units. I have 310 ml of tepid water. Tap water's fine. I sort of semi-boiled half of it in the kettle. The glass should be a little bit warm to the touch, but certainly too cold to bath in or anything. And our dry ingredients in here, we've got about 10 grams of dried bread yeast, or 1.5 of these 7 gram sachets that you can get. 1 tablespoon of sugar for the yeast to feed on to make the bread rise, and half a tablespoon of table salt, just normal salt. So we're going to start with the bowl of flour. Make a little bit of a well in the middle. So I'm keeping an eye for the dogs while I'm doing this. And we're going to add all of our dry ingredients in there. So like a lot of people, I started making bread at the start of the COVID lockdown. I've tried quite a few recipes. Tried sourdough like everyone did. Forgot to feed my starter like everyone did. That died. This one I've had a lot of good luck with. It's been reliable, it's risen well, it's come out lovely every time. So our dry ingredients are in this small sort of well in the middle. We're going to add about half of our water. That'll do. And mix this up with a fork. Try not to bring in too much of the flour at this point. We're just mixing up that dry mixture with the water, and it doesn't matter if it starts bringing in a little bit of the flour. So now that's thoroughly mixed, bring in a little bit more flour. So here in Norfolk, we found quite a good local bakery that used to be a commercial bakery. They did sort of large catering events. They're called Bread Sauce, but they've started doing home delivery for normal residential stuff, which has really kick-started our baking, and has worked really well, and the ingredients there are lovely. That's starting to get really quite, so the texture on that is getting quite dry, and it's all sticking to the fork. So we're going to add a bit more of the water and mix it a bit more. So one of the other things I'm trying to do with this video is, if you've watched some of my earlier videos, I have a talking to camera style that's very presenty. Not very me. I am by trade actually a scientist, mad scientist I'm often described as. So when I do public speaking, it's generally at a conference or in front of the institute where I'm presenting my work. So part of our journey with YouTube is I'm going to be getting out of that habit and starting to be a little bit more natural. So we're going to add the rest of our water. At this point, it's easier to move on to a wooden spoon, something with a bit more heft to it. Now, I think this is going to need a bit more water than this, but we'll see. And just mix it in. This is going to need more water, so I'm going to cut here and grab some more. Right, I'm back with more lukewarm water. The consistency we're looking for is sort of a kneadable dough. This isn't far off, a little bit drier than this. The problem is we haven't incorporated anywhere near all of the flour yet, so it's going to get really too dry. So we're going to have to play the water by ear. You are going to be getting your hands in this mixture, so I shouldn't have to say make sure your hands are clean. They should be pristine while we're in a global pandemic. You should be washing them every chance you get for 20 seconds at least. Right, I'm going to add a bit more water. So we also have a blog entitled Parsnips and Iron. A while ago I made a blog post on there. I'm going to link to the blog in the description. I'm also going to link to this particular post in the description as well if you want to have a look. I made a post entitled, "Do Hippies Dream of Electric Yurts?" I have always had a dream of completely going off the grid, living a proper good lifestyle, sustainable, possibly nomadic, definitely a bit of a hermit, that sort of lifestyle. Slowly but surely, I have been breaking down my marvellous wife, who was a city girl when I met her. I'm getting a little bit more of the country into her every year. She was a city girl that loved cats, and now we're trying to get into the middle of nowhere with as many dogs as possible. I'd say I'm winning. So I have got her on board with this dream of being out of the rat race, in the middle of nowhere, living sustainably, growing our own food, tending some of our own livestock. And we also have a very close couple of friends. They're more like family to us at this point, who are like-minded. You will see a lot of them on this YouTube channel as well, and we have decided that it's a lot more attainable if we do it together. Now, this mixture is round about the texture I want. It's sticking together, still a bit flaking, but it's something you can pick up and knead in your hands. There's a little bit of flour left in the bowl, but hardly anything. So we're going to come to the fun bit, which is the kneading. Now, there is a trick to this that I learnt from my dad, and I can't remember where he learnt it, but it's amazing. Most places, most recipes you see, and most people that make bread will at this point move their dough onto a platform like this, and they will dust it with flour so that it doesn't stick. I implore you, do not put flour down. Put down a bit of oil. Now, oil also stops it from sticking, but as you knead it into the dough, it makes the dough the silkiest, softest, most pleasurable to feel dough that you've ever experienced, and it comes out light and fluffy and airy as perfect bread. So we've got a little splodge of oil, just going to move that around the board a little. Take our dough and pop it in the middle. Sort of scrape out anything that's left in the bowl. That'll all get kneaded into each other, into itself. Kneaded in. And we knead. Turn it over and knead. Push your hands in hard. It's very satisfying doing this. Getting your hands dirty. Getting the bread dough consolidated. So back to the electric yurts. We decided that our dream would be to find a field in the middle of nowhere. Legally, of course, buy the field. Erect a couple of 5 to 6 meter Mongolian yurts, or gurs as they're called in Mongolia, I think, and live in them. Completely off-grid, would have solar power, would have wind power, probably main sewage until that got sorted, and a way to get our own water. And the four of us were going to do that, and that was life's goal. We researched a lot. We looked in hard. Went around a lot of people with very similar goals. To be fair, it's not an uncommon dream. The idea of living in a temporary building on any kind of affordable land, really, is... we couldn't find a way to legally do it in the UK. They did change the law slightly about barn conversions, which meant if you meet certain requirements, you don't need planning permission to convert a barn, and you can live on the land in temporary dwelling for up to 5 years. The most important thing is we wanted to do it legally. We wanted to get all the right permissions. We didn't want to just squat on land and have the constant fear that we were going to be turfed off as soon as the council found us. So that, I'm not sure we're going to be able to legally do that. Within the area we'd like to do, we'd like to stay in the UK. We'd quite like to stay in Norfolk, to be honest, because Norfolk is beautiful, especially if you're looking to get out of the city and into the countryside. Norfolk countryside is marvellous. If you happen to know of how that could possibly be done in the UK legally, please leave a comment. I would be ecstatic to hear about it, because that's always been the primary dream. Failing that, we have been looking at small dilapidated houses on about 3 acres of land that we could renovate and we could do up and we could live in. The only reason that that's even theoretically viable is that we are looking to combine 2 households, so 4 adults, which is the only way we could afford it. This is getting quite sticky now, so I'm going to put down a little bit more oil. It's only vegetable oil with 15% olive oil. Any oil will do. Vegetable oil, olive oil, canola oil. Don't recommend motor oil. Can't imagine a bit of 2-stroke would work well. Oh, that's nice. So you're going to be needing this for about 10-15 minutes, really. I'll probably be needing it for a little longer because I'm not giving it much attention because I'm talking to the camera. So because the 4 of us want to move in and do this together, it becomes financially viable. Ideally, at least some of us want to move to a more self-sufficient line of work. I have always had a passion for blacksmithing. It's a passion that I've had for, I say always, over a decade. It's always been what I wanted to do. I have spent time with local blacksmiths. I've spent time in the forge, and I've never really had an environment where I can justify having a forge. It's a really noisy hobby. It's a hobby I'd ideally like to turn into a career, but I've never had an environment where it was really possible to have that. What we are doing at the moment is we are combining both of our households. So my wife and I are selling our house, our friends are selling their house, and we're moving into a 3-bedroom, semi-detached townhouse in need of renovation. It's got a slightly bigger garden than we've got, which is good for the dogs, and it puts us together so that when the right piece of land or the right building comes up, we're in a position to just go for it. We got all our money in one place. We only have to worry about selling one property. And we should be able to make a little bit of money on renovating the house. One of the benefits of this house is in the garden is a concrete built shed. My plan while we're there is to soundproof it completely and make that a forge. My part on this channel will then turn into an awful lot of blacksmithing videos, which are at the moment very popular on YouTube. The problem is I know very little. I will be a complete rank amateur. And rather than me telling you how to do stuff, you can just watch me make mistakes and probably hurt myself. Possibly set myself on fire. I've only done that once with an angle grinder. Wasn't fun. Always wear protection. So this dough is really starting to feel quite smooth. It's not yet at that silky smooth level I'd like, so we're going to keep kneading. So the point of this channel, the point of Parsnips and Iron, is we follow a lot of people that are living our dream life, that are doing the crafts we want to do and we want to spend our lives doing, that are living in the sort of environments we want to live in, and we're also enjoying the content of people that have not quite got it figured out yet, but are working towards it. So we hoped that someone might have interest in our journey, given that we know what we're working towards. This is going to be involving a lot of hard work, a lot of learning new things, a lot of things that I think will be very interesting as content. And basically doing what we can to make the most of life. Some of us at the moment are more or less happy. Some of us are incredibly miserable. So we're taking steps to actually just go for it. Go for what we want to do in our lives, rather than what we should do rather than what we're told to do, and just not waste the small amount of time we've got here, because none of us are getting any younger. This is feeling really smooth, and I'm feeling like I'm really rambling at this point. So once it gets to this stage, I can't feel any little lumps. It is just silky smooth. And the little background video is only 30 minutes long. Have I been doing this for 30 minutes? So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to proof the flour, the dough. This will be the first proof. We will be doing it in 2 stages. So to proof the dough, we're going to clean up the bowl, put a little baking paper in, or greaseproof paper, to line the bowl so nothing sticks. I'm going to sprinkle a little flour on that, and I'll show you that after I've done it. And this is going to want to go somewhere warm for 30 minutes, I think the first proof is. Let me double check. Yeah, 30 minutes, it should double in size. There are a few places you could do that. An airing cupboard is good if you've got one. The method we use, which is very reliable, but not the most energy efficient, is we have a double oven. So we have one oven above another. So we turn on the bottom oven, the heat rises and makes the top oven reasonably nice and warm. And the bread goes in there to proof, and that works perfectly. I have read that you can get very good results by filling a slow cooker with a small amount of water, turning the lid of the slow cooker upside down to make a sort of dish, and proving it on there, or proving it in a bowl within water in the slow cooker, I think. And a slow cooker is obviously a very efficient way to keep heat going for a long period of time. So I'm going to clean out this bowl, and then I'll get back to you when we're ready to proof. Right, I've washed up my bowl, mainly because if you let it bake in, it's going to be a lot harder to clean. I've lined it with greaseproof paper, and I have sprinkled flour in it. You shouldn't really need the flour to stop it sticking. There should be enough oil in this dough to keep it from sticking. But just to be safe, and we're just going to pop the dough in there, stick it in our warm place, in our case the top oven, and leave it for 30 minutes. Don't open whatever it's in, keep the heat in, not too hot, just sort of like a really warm room. And we'll come back once the first proof is done. Right, the bread's proofed. We've taken it out of the oven, and it has doubled in size. And it looks like during the previous process, I got a little bit of yeast in my tepid water. So, because of the oil content and the flour, we can peel this off nice and easily from the greaseproof paper. I am going to flour this board for the second part. We only really do the oil on the first part for the kneading. Just a little bit of flour, just to stop it sticking. What we want to do now is, this has risen in our hot place. We need to knock the air back out of it. To do that, you simply just push on it, squeeze it, and that will go very flat. It's counterintuitive, but it does make for the nicest, fluffiest bread. We are going to have a second proving. So that's squished down into something resembling a shape. Move that forward. Take any dish that's going to be big enough to fit 2 of those in. So for the second proof, that is going to double in size. This makes quite a nice sort of farmhouse loaf, more of a bloomer style. To make sure it doesn't stick and you get all the nice crust, we are going to oil the dish just a little bit, just a splash of oil in there, and take some tissue or a cloth and rub it round. That's nice and greased. So we take our squished up dough with the air knocked out of it, flip it in the bowl, make it rough shape. Obviously it's going to expand, so it's not going to fill the whole dish. And that is going to go back in the hot place for another 30 minutes to an hour. Have a look at it after 30 minutes. It should double in size. If it has doubled in size, we can take it out to bake. If it hasn't, leave it in for a bit longer, up to an hour. The second proof is important. That's what's going to put in all of the little fluffy air bubbles. While you're doing that, if you're not using the oven to make something hot for the rising, you want to start preheating your oven, because as soon as it comes out of the proof, it's going to go straight into the oven at 180, between 180 and 200 degrees centigrade. We'll see you after the next proof. Right, it's been half an hour. Let's check on the proving. Oh, perfect. That has doubled in size quite nicely, and it's filling the dish. So that is going to go in the oven at 180 degrees centigrade for, check it after 25 minutes. And there you have it. One beautiful loaf of bread. Put it on a wire rack to cool. Although I can never resist a slice while it's warm. Beautiful.